Hi, my name's Marja. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this zippered tool case. We're going to be using zipper by the yard. You'll need 40 inches total plus 3 pulls. We're also going to use fold over elastic, and you need 1.5 meters of that. I'm using 2 quilting cottons, one for the exterior, one for the lining, as well as some mesh fabric and some fusible foam, single-sided fusible foam. Cutting out is pretty straightforward. The exterior, interior, and foam are all the same size, 13 tall, 19 wide. And the mesh is 7 inches tall and 19 inches wide. Step 1. Fuse the foam to the wrong side of the lining. You want to make sure it's fused all over, but you can always go back and re-iron it if it does start to come away a little bit. Step 2. Round the corners on the lining and foam piece. You can use a corner ruler or a bowl to mark the curve. I'm using a multi-size curved corner cutter from Creative Grids, and I'm using the 3-inch radius corner, and I was able to get the same curve using this 6-inch bowl. It's a really good idea to fold this in half at this point and check and see that the curves are lining up properly. Or you can also use 1/2 to mark a line for cutting the other side, like I'm doing here. Step 3. Prepare the zipper. You're going to cut 7.5 inches from your zipper by the inch, and we need to put on 1 pull. So in order to do that, you need to separate one end of your zipper, and I like to cut off some of the teeth on one side of the zipper only. So I just cut off about 3/8 of an inch. So you need to grab your zipper pull and look at how you have on one side there's 2 tracks, on the other side there's just a single track. So you're going to be putting the zipper pull on from the 2 open tracks. So that's why the zipper is separated there. So I start by placing the zipper pull on the side of the zipper that's not cut, and I just pull it down a little bit, and I kind of try to line it up with the top cut of the zipper teeth that's on the right side. I'll separate it a little more once I have it lined up, and I just kind of like jam it in on an angle. Kind of like shove it in there and then pinch the 2 zipper pieces and pull the pull down. And you can see sometimes it doesn't go on straight. See, I have a bubble on the right side. So in that case, you just take it off and start again. The hardest part is getting them to line up just right, and it can take several tries. This is definitely something that takes practice. So now you need to trim off the uneven part of the zipper. So step 4, use fold over elastic to secure each end of the zipper. So I cut 2 pieces from my fold over elastic about 2 inches long each. And then I really like to use a glue stick to hold this in place. So I put some glue on one of the long ends of my little piece of fold over elastic, and I put the zipper right side down on the wrong side of the elastic. Then fold in each short end using glue to secure it, and then fold in the other long end. Then you're going to do the exact same thing to the other side of the zipper, and when it's all ready, then you can zigzag across. So switch to a zigzag stitch on your machine. You might want to use the awl, also called a stiletto, also called a pokey thing, to help kind of push the zipper through. I also will grab onto my threads so that I'm just giving it a little bit of a tug when I start sewing, and that helps to pull it through so it doesn't get stuck. It's kind of a tricky little thing to sew. Step 5. Cut a piece of elastic 18 inches long. This piece is going to be the binding on the top edge of your inside pocket. So we want to mark the center of this piece of elastic. So just fold it in half and stick a pin on that fold. We also need to mark the middle of your mesh pocket. And then we're going to match the two middle marks. So your elastic is an inch shorter than the edge of the mesh pocket. And that's on purpose. We're going to be stretching the elastic to fit. So we'll start by matching up the centers and then also put a pin to match up each end so that the two beginning ends are matched and then the two ends are going to be pinned, and we'll have to stretch in between those parts to make it fit. So you want to use zigzag stitch for this, and you're going to be sewing the mesh to the lower section of the fold over elastic. You're going to be sewing it to the lower half of the fold over elastic, so there should be a little line through the center of the elastic, and you want to keep your mesh to the left of that line. And you can see as you stretch the elastic, the mesh wants to move. So you just need to keep on holding it, stretch it just to where your pin is, and then sew a little bit more. Next, you're going to fold the elastic in half along the fold line, and you're going to zigzag again one more time. This time you don't need to worry too much about stretching it. The zigzag stitch is automatically a stretchy stitch. Step 6. Sew the zipper to the top of the right side of your mesh pocket. The pocket is more than twice as long as the zipper, so you're going to be placing the zipper 1 inch from the right side of the pocket. The zipper should be tucked just behind the fold over elastic, and you can pin or clip to hold it in place or use glue. And for this, I just use a straight stitch to sew it. So you want to make sure the zipper isn't going to be sitting below the binding. You don't want the zipper to be sitting below the fold over elastic because then you can see it. So you want to just have it tucked just to the bottom edge of the binding, and then you can do a straight stitch close to the lower edge of the fold over elastic, and then also do another one towards the top edge of the fold over elastic. Step 7. Place the mesh pocket with the zipper attached on the lining. That's the piece that's fused to the foam. I'm folding it in half so that I can center it, and then you're going to use clips and pins to hold it together. I like to use a lot of pins for this because the mesh tends to stretch and move as you're sewing it, and I want it to just stay exactly where I put it. I'm going to a straight stitch for this. I'm using a slightly longer stitch length just to help go over the foam. It makes it a little bit easier. And you're just sewing close to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm adding an extra pin there just because the mesh is moving quite a bit, so sometimes I'll just add more pins if the mesh is starting to move and bubble. Step 8. Trim excess mesh so that the corners match the lining and the foam. Step 9. Pin and sew the top of the zipper to the case lining. And I always switch my thread color for this if my zipper and fold over elastic are different colors. I'll just switch back and forth so that the thread is hidden. And you can do a double seam on the top of the zipper as well. Step 10. Mark a line 2.5 inches down from the top edge of the lining and cut a piece of elastic that's just a little bit wider than the lining itself. Stitch elastic in place at the left side and then at intervals throughout the length until you reach the right side. I usually do mine about 1 inch apart, and I sew up and down 3 times. Step 11. Carefully fold the case lining in half with the right sides together. Mark the center at the top and the bottom of the foam. You want to mark the exact center. Next, you're going to mark your stitching line 1/4 of an inch from the edge and 1 inch wide. You're going to mark this on the top and the bottom at the center. So you'll end up with a marked line that is exactly 1 inch wide, 1/4 of an inch from the edge, and that's where you're going to be sewing. You want to mark this carefully because if it's not centered and it's not even, then your case might be a bit crooked.